Now I feel like an idiot. Seriously. It was right in front of me the entire time, and we didn't even talk about this once. This is one of the craziest connections that I feel we could be seeing in the NHL this upcoming year. And it was pointed out to me by an article on Bob Duff's Detroit Hockey Now page. I wanted to go out there and bring this into the spotlight because, man, is this a connection. Yesterday, Duff published this piece titled, "Can Gustafsson, Kane, and DeBrincat rediscover Chicago chemistry with the Detroit Red Wings?" The trio were part of a potent Blackhawks power play. Now, this was such a shocker to me that when I saw the title of this article, everything in my brain just clicked, and I was like, wait a minute, yeah, that's exactly it. These three guys were all a part of the Chicago Blackhawks 2018-19 Erik Gustafsson and Patrick Kane career year. Now, if you don't know what we're talking about, let's go back into 2018-19. Because during this season, you had Patrick Kane leading the Chicago Blackhawks in points with 110, 44 goals, and 66 assists. In second place, you had Jonathan Toews with 81 points in 82 games. In third place, you had Alex DeBrincat with 76 points in 82 games, 41 goals too, and Erik Gustafsson with 60 points, 17 goals, 43 assists in 79 games. He led the team in defenseman scoring. Afterwards, you had other guys, Lindstrom, Brandon Saad, Duncan Keith. He only had 40 points that year. This is kind of when you started to see a slight decline in production for Keith, but of course, not being on the Blackhawks' first unit on the power play certainly contributed to his lesser point production here. Either way, though, it was kind of a big shocker to me to remember the fact that each of these three guys were a part of that stacked power play. And the reason I say stacked power play, hey, it's written out in the article. Let's go out there and see what Bob Duff writes about. Back in the day, there was a time when the combination of Kane, DeBrincat, and Gustafsson were the cause of nightmares for the Detroit Red Wings. During the 18-19 season, that trio were linchpins on a potent Chicago Blackhawks power play that was clicking at 20%. Kane had himself a career year with 110 points, DeBrincat had his second best year with point production with 76, and Gustafsson had a career year too with 60 points on the season. On the power play, Kane was contributing 9 goals and 30 points. DeBrincat would account for a team-high 13 power play goals, and Erik Gustafsson put up 18 points when Chicago was enjoying the man advantage. 2 years ago, none of the three were Red Wings. Now, they all are. That chemistry they possess on the power play is already surfacing even during training camp drills. Here's what Derek Lalonde had to say about these guys. Erik Gustafsson does find a way of transporting the puck from the blue line and giving Patrick some time. He seems to find a way to put it to the sweet spot, so there is some chemistry between those three. It's one of the reasons why when defenseman Shane Gostisbehere was opting to take his power play expertise somewhere else, Red Wings GM Steve Yzerman was setting his sights on UFA Gustafsson. He runs a great power play, Detroit captain Dylan Larkin said. Now, here's the thing about that Chicago unit in 2018-19. The Blackhawks were still a good team in that time frame. They weren't as bad as they are now. And for Patrick Kane to have a 110-point year alongside a DeBrincat who had a career high in goals in a season, and Gustafsson with that 60-point campaign, it really puts into perspective just where everything was in the NHL in that season. If you go over to 2018-19, you'll see that Erik Gustafsson was one of the top 10 defensemen in the NHL in points. He was only bested out by 5 guys. And with 17 goals, he was in the top 5 for overall goals by D-men. Only Morgan Rielly, Dougie Hamilton, and Mark Giordano had more goals than he did. Which is kind of funny when you think about it, like, Morgan Rielly? Really? He was there? Yeah, he was. He was that good in 2018-19. However, when it comes to the Red Wings in 2024-2025, it's been 6 years. So everything's a little bit different. Gustafsson no longer has the expectation of being able to put up 60 points in a year, and if you wanted to say that a power play 1 spot isn't even guaranteed, I'd be inclined to agree with that, to be honest. I mean, you have Moritz Seider, who is supposed to be a number one defenseman caliber guy on this team. He certainly had the minutes of a guy like that last year. Whether or not that continues into the power play for this year remains to be seen, but with a fresh slate after Shane Gostisbehere's departure, you could say that that spot is up for grabs. For Erik Gustafsson, though, I do think that because there is already chemistry with DeBrincat and Kane, there would be some sort of an inclination for Lalonde to go with that trio to kick things off on the man advantage. Add in Larkin, add in Raymond, and boom, you have yourselves a complete power play unit. Might I remind you that Erik Gustafsson, even though he is no longer at that 60-point caliber capacity, he did have 2 back-to-back 30-point years, and if you map out the point production in those seasons, he was on pace for a significant amount more. Last year, 31 points in 76 games played. Okay, that's kind of like a mid-30s point season, but the year before that in Washington, 38 points in 61 games played. Multiply that out by 82, and that is a 50-point pace. So if Erik Gustafsson is able to stay healthy, which he has not been able to do all too much throughout the past few years, except for this previous season, if he's able to do that and he gets consistent power play time, who knows what this guy's going to be able to do in freeing up space, allowing Patty Kane to do his thing, opening up lanes, and setting up Alex DeBrincat for one-timers. This may be the guy that the Red Wings might have needed in order to allow Alex DeBrincat to exhibit that goal-scoring touch that he had all those days ago in Chicago. He had 2 40-goal seasons with the Blackhawks before regressing to 2 27-goal seasons in Ottawa and Detroit. Not bad, especially for a $7.8 million player, but you do kind of expect more out of that, especially when you consider the magnitude as to what he's been capable of doing in the past. So DeBrincat needs a spark, a full season of Patty Kane after a full offseason of training, instead of him having to wait it out, recover from surgery, sign in the middle of the year, and kind of get things going as the season was already in full swing. You saw the shootout goal that Patty Kane had the other day. This guy is fully capable of coming back and being a legit point-per-game player. I don't even think that's too hot of a take, right? Oh, am I hyping up a Red Wings guy because he's a Red Wings guy and I like the Red Wings? Yeah, I guess so, but it's Patrick Kane. And while he may not be as healthy as he's ever been, I don't think anybody's expecting him to have a 100-point season if he's given the reins to just do what he needs to do on the power play, get himself an assist every few periods, and get himself a goal once in a while too. Allow Gustafsson and DeBrincat to build off of their chemistry in Chicago from 5 years ago. Then who's to say that Patty Kane can't get 80 points on the year? Who's to say that DeBrincat isn't capable of getting 40 goals again? Especially the way the NHL's heading nowadays. I mean, when Erik Gustafsson had 60 points, the top point guy in the league for defensemen was like in the 80s. We had a 100-point scorer on defense last year in Erik Karlsson, and a bunch of 90 guys too. So all in all, scoring is up. Patrick Kane and DeBrincat are back together. Add in Gustafsson, take away Gostisbehere, open up that spot. Everything is blending into a perfect combo for what the Red Wings could have in store. This article even concludes that Derek Lalonde watched video footage of these guys in their power play in the past, and he said, yeah, there's a lot of chemistry there. This is what Alex DeBrincat had to say about Erik Gustafsson and his capabilities. I think he's a great passer on the power play and off the power play. I think he's a guy that can really make that first pass out of the zone. He's very deceptive. On the power play, you may think he's shooting, but then he's giving a nice pass over for a one-timer. So I think he adds that aspect of it. It's also what Patrick Kane finds the most enticing about his game. He was so deceptive up top. He really knows how to run the top. Maybe as good as anyone I've played with, to be honest with you. He was a key component to our power play. And might I remind you, Patrick Kane played with the best years of Duncan Keith, who, I'll admit, was never like the best point producer. I think the shortened season in 2012-2013 is when he really came alive, but still, Patty Kane knows what he's talking about. And if Erik Gustafsson is one of the best passing defensemen he's had on his line in the past few years, that's totally a good thing to go out there and acknowledge bringing him over to Detroit. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. How do you feel about Erik Gustafsson, Patrick Kane, and Alex DeBrincat potentially reigniting their Chicago chemistry with the Detroit Red Wings, and how maybe kind of treacherous it is for that? You know, it kind of feels like treason a little bit. But either way, it's here, it's gonna stay, and I think Wings fans have no choice but to be excited. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.